Sober on Purpose is the podcast that takes you beyond clean to fulfilling your dreams. Other programs get you sober. We ask what's next. Come thrive with us.
Hey, Jerry.
Hi, Tanya.
It's early this morning, isn't it?
A little bit. It's not so much early as much as it is that I stayed up late.
Yeah, I was at a ball game till late last night, driving home from Wyoming. No snow, though. Yay.
Lucky, and no animals, apparently, because looked like the Subaru was in one piece this morning.
It is. I found another person who is doing some really awesome work, both on Facebook and in his local community. And he has this really unique thing that he does with chips that you get from recovery. So we're going to talk about all of that today.
All right, who is it?
So this is Chris Faulk, and he's from Minnesota, and he's a peer recovery coach, and he's been working with their local area, and he's working with one of the first, and Chris, you can tell us directly about this, one of the first SUD mobile units. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about this new unit.
Well, good morning. My name is Christopher Lee Faulk, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is I've been clean and sober since July 16th, 2013.
Woohoo!
Miracle.
Yeah, it is a miracle. And so what that also means to me is my life just looks a little different than it did back then, and I get to be a part of people's recovery. And so just a little bit about myself. I got 6 kids. They're in 4 different sports. I'm coaching 2 of them in baseball. I work as a peer recovery specialist for Minnesota Recovery Connections, which is a nonprofit. And I get subcontracted out on a couple things. And then I also do a little bit of construction work still, just to make the ends meet and pay for the sports. And I'm coaching 2 of the teams. And then I do the ring thing. So that keeps me pretty busy.
That's
Sounds like it,
awesome. Yeah. Tell us, so the mobile unit, this fits in with some other podcasts that we're putting out this week. Mm-hmm. The mobile unit is the first of its kind in the country. Tell us more about how that works.
Well, I did a drug courts in Ramsey County and Dakota County, or Hennepin County for 3 years. They had a 3-year contract, and that contract came to an end, and it was in complete miraculously form. It just all of a sudden that door closed, and I was like, all right, now what am I going to do? I'll go back to construction. And my boss at the time she had wrote her first grant, and she joined this East Metro Alliance, who was trying to form this together. So this was her vision, and it was like her baby. So, and I was with her facilitating one of the peer coach academies when she got the email saying she got $500,000 for 2 years. For the 2-year contract. And I just seen that light in her eyes, like, she was just, that was her baby, so mm-hmm. She had asked, she goes, you want to do it? And I'm just, for one, I couldn't say no. And for another, it's like the ideal job that, that I would want. It's my niche. So, so what it looks like is we got the grant, and so it's East Metro Twin Cities. It's 3 different counties. It's Washington County, Ramsey County, and Dakota County. And within those 3 counties, there's 9 hospitals that we're working with pretty much consistently now. We're only 8 months in, but so out of the 9 hospitals, I actually go in, I meet the peer that when they're in crisis in the emergency room, they'll either get referred by a mental health specialist or a doctor or social worker or somebody like that will send a referral. So we get the referral, and it comes right up on my phone. And my motto is I'm going to be there within 24 hours. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go to that emergency room, and I want to meet them while they're in crisis. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind it is we have our team is made up of 2 licensed alcohol and drug counselor, one who is also has his master's in social work, so he can take care of the mental health clinical side. So that's the clinical team. And then there's 2 peer recovery specialists. We're the non-clinical team. And so the idea is, when somebody goes in the emergency room and they're in crisis, you got all these doctors talking this language that they don't understand. They got social workers talking to them and throwing them paperwork and testing them. And so they're just, all they can hear. And in my head, when I was in that situation, all I could hear was this loud beep, and I didn't hear nobody. Until I heard the word discharge, and somebody said, "Oh, if you sign this piece of paper, you get discharged." So, of course, you want to get discharged right away, and that's all you're focused on. So instead of listening to these doctors, I go in and I introduce myself just like I did in the show. My name is Chris Faulk, and I'm a person in long-term recovery, and all of a sudden that connection is made. It's like you're talking my language. So I can get a little more information out of them. I can find out what their recovery looks like inside of them, because it doesn't matter. They can do my recovery, day by day, and their recovery is still going to look different. So I look for what, their strengths, and it's all strength based. I don't call them patients, because that puts them down. I don't call them clients, because that makes me look good. So we kind of come up with recovery or participant has been, the go-to words, because the language around the addiction and the recovery needs to change, because it affects a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that they won't even go into treatment because just the stigma and the shame. So.
Well, and there's so much lingo. When we talk 12 steps and are you doing the 1, 2, 3 waltz and all those types of things, there's a lot of lingo in there that is confusing. And I really like what you said about when you're getting to them when they're in crisis, but you're coming in as a peer. I know when I go to the doctor not in crisis, there's still a lot of language, and there's white coats, and there's computers, and there's things going on that I don't always remember what they tell me.
Yeah, and it never feels like you're, in a traditional clinical setting, that you're meeting the professionals, at the same level. It always feels like, you're kind of at the bottom of the chain and they're above you. So what I'm hearing, at least what I'm visualizing as you describe what you're doing, is much more as we meet on the level kind of thing, where we're equals. Is that what you're targeting?
That's exactly right. We got the clinical staff, and then, you got doctors that have used clinical language, and then you have, like sponsors. I did my 12 steps through the Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm, worked my way up through, and I still continue to do them. But as a sponsor, that's an authoritative. To me, that's authoritative. Take cotton out of your ears, put it in your mouth, sit down, shut up, listen to me, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. So that's authoritative, and that's I'm shying away from that quite a bit too, because the peer part is I gotta sit down. I'm an equal. I've been there. I've been in that situation. I always say, you dug your hole. I hate the word rock bottom. That's not even good language, but you dug your hole. So you're sitting down in this hole, and all of a sudden a doctor walks by and says, "Hey, if you do this and take 2 of these, you'll be good to go." And then the doctor leaves. Well, you're still stuck in the hole, and then a pastor or priest walks by and says, "Hey, pray." And all of a sudden he walks by and he keeps on going while he's still in the hole. You're still praying. Well, I would say a peer recovery coach just jumps in the hole with them and says, "Hey, let's figure out how to get out of this."
Yeah. At least let's stop digging.
Let's stop digging down. Right? So you're in the trenches, you're in the foxhole with them, and like you said, we were just at this conference where doctors literally have 7 minutes to be with you. That's based on insurance. They have 7 minutes, and the nurse has 7 minutes, and it is the 7-minute formula. It is really, truly a formula out there. As a peer recovery person, how long are you able to stay with this person? Days, months, weeks? How does that program work?
Again, everybody's different. Everybody's, it's not a cookie cut model. This is real life, and everybody's recovery looks different. So, if I was not on a grant in the Department of Human Services, we were billing them. You get 2 hours per peer just on a one-on-one contract. And there's a lot of billing that's still up in legislation, and it's kind of in the works. But because we're on the grant, we kind of get to write. We're trailblazers, and nobody's done this, so there's really no guidelines. But we like to say 6 to 9 months, and we'd like to get you, give you a little friendly kick in the butt when you're done. But otherwise, for day to day, there's no time limit. I can meet with them, usually about 45 minutes to, I spent whole days with them, because the idea is, after we leave that clinical setting, recovery is done out in the community. So now, somebody told me you could have fun sober, and I always laughed at them. I said, "No, you can't." I always said I was a professional alcoholic, so I needed fun. I'll show you how to have fun, but. So now, that's basically my job, is take them out in the community. So we do Rule 25s. If they can't find one, we'll do it for free on the ground, kind of deal. And just give them an assessment and find out where they're at. You know, what do they want? Do they want inpatient? Do they want outpatient treatment? You know, they want to look at a different pathway because there's a lot of them out there. And
what's Rule 25?
Rule 25 is a Minnesota thing. We used to be the land of 10,000 lakes. Now we're the land of 10,000 treatment centers. So Rule 25 is a bill that passed that. So you fill out this assessment, anybody with no insurance. So you got, you know, anybody, you know, a lot of alcoholics and drug users, you know, don't have insurance. So basically it's just a free assessment to find out which treatment center to put them in. But a lot of treatment centers will do their own. And of course they refer it to, you know, if you go to this place, they're going to refer you to their own place. But, well, we're neutral. So, you know, we can find out, okay, you got a chemical health problem and there's a little bit of mental health going on there too. And if you don't treat both of them, you know, integratedly at the same time, you're going to have some problems. So we'll find, you know, just the right treatment center for them.
Yeah. I want to kind of go back and talk a little bit about this have fun and sobriety. Because for me, when I started to go sober, you know, well, when I went sober, I didn't start. It wasn't like a transition. It was like an overnight thing. You know, the sober part, or at least the chemical free part, was pretty easy. You know, not that it was easy to do, but the method is easy. You don't drink, right? You don't use, boom. But that's not the end, right? So I remember hearing some of the older, more experienced people in recovery saying, you know, sobriety is easy. You don't drink, you don't pick up the bottle, you don't use the drug. That's that. But that's by no means the solution to the problem, right? So the question becomes, you know, how do we live a happy and joyous free life once we've gotten sobriety? And I found that to be really, really challenging. And the way I did it was, you know, just a painstaking working through the steps, doing what was suggested, you know, got a sponsor, 90 meetings in 90 days. But really it was by working through the steps. And then it just started to kind of happen where I, you know, eventually just started to hang out with people who, whether they used chemicals or not, they didn't have a chronic addiction issue like I did. And, you know, and for the most part, I hung out with my sobriety community, my recovery community. But yeah, I mean, that was a real challenge, is how do I live well and happy now that I am chemically free? I found that to be very, very challenging.
Chris, how do you take because like you said, you can be sober in a treatment community and everybody's trying to be sober. How do you take folks back out into the community? What do you do with them in the community to help them say, hey, you know, I can do this sober. I don't have to be the professional alcoholic.
Yeah. There's lots of different things, you know, like usually the first thing is after we get out of that clinical setting, they'll say, hey, you want to go meet for a cup of coffee somewhere? Some people don't want to go out in public yet, you know, so I go right to their homes, you know, and we'll sit down, you know, so that they have the home field advantage and they just feel more comfortable, and, you know, until we make that connection and get to know each other. And they got these coffee shops I used to drive by, and I'm like, look at all those people, you know, they spend $6 on a cup of coffee. They're, you know, look at all these fools. And as I'm in the bar with $250 bar tab. So yeah, now I'm that coffee guy.
And then,
yeah, I'll just meet them for a cup of coffee and then get to know them from there, and then we'll just take them. But yeah.
And so what I'm hearing is kind of what happened to Jerry. I'm going to tell a story on you. So I grew up in the church, and I grew up going to church camp and those types of things. Not that bad things and things can't happen there, but it was a good experience. So the first year you weren't, but maybe 4 months sober, very, very new sober. He went to camp with a men's camp, right? And
like a retreat,
and didn't really know a whole lot of these men.
Let's be clear. A Christian retreat was not by any means focused on recovery whatsoever. Right.
And didn't really know a whole lot of these men and didn't know if they were in recovery or all those types of things. He comes home. His face is lit up. He's like, I went and I had so much fun, and I didn't know you could have fun like this without drugs and alcohol. I mean, they did outdoor things. They shot guns. They played music. They stayed up late and talked to each other. All those types of things that I kind of went, really? you didn't know that's possible. And that's where I see this peer part being so important. Had he had somebody who was a peer or known that they were a peer go with him, it wouldn't have been so terrifying to get to the retreat.
That's a good, I forgot about that. So that was the first taste of real fun that I had outside of the recovery community. I don't know that, there were other people at this group who were in recovery and maybe even struggled still with chemical dependency, or at least the obsession to use chemicals. But I really bonded with a gentleman who's a little bit older. If he's listening to this, he's going to be upset if I call him an older gentleman. He's a little bit older than me, who never struggled with addiction, but still was able to come to the table with this non-judgmental, accepting mentality. And it gave me a new hope for humanity in a lot of ways, because I didn't know that there were people who didn't struggle with chemical dependency who could think that, look, there's still hope for you. You know what I mean? That you hadn't just completely ruined it. Nor did he come to the table like a lot of the traditional Christians, like, oh, well, just embrace Jesus. The old is dead and you're born again and go and be well, because a lot of people who don't struggle, a lot of Christians who don't struggle with addiction just kind of come to the table with, oh, well, that's all right, because, hey, the old is dead and you're new in Christ. So there you go. Problem solved. Go ahead. And it's like, whoa. That has not been my experience. Okay. My experience is not just go and be well. My experience is, I'm going to have to do some stuff here. And it's a slow and painstaking process. But thank goodness, that my creator created a method, a 12-step method because, I know that there's other ways to sobriety now. Being in this community for a long time, there are other people who have found sobriety and personal, spiritual, emotional wellness without the 12 steps. I just know that it worked for me. It worked really well for me. I a lot of times I just wish that there was this magic, silver bullet that I just say this prayer. I just open up and I'm fixed. And heck, what would even be better is if I could just go say the prayer and then learn how to use like a normal person and never really become obsessed. That'd be super, but I never did find that last way. I did find the way to ask for relief from this obsession, and it was miraculously relieved. I remember one day just going, I haven't obsessed, in weeks.
Yeah.
And that was a miracle. That was an absolute miracle.
How do you help the people you work with implement their new sobriety in their daily lives and with their families?
We just give them the magic pill. You guys don't have that. Again, everybody's different, but I just met a recovery the other day, and he asked if his family could sit in, and I'm like, please, the more the merrier, because at the beginning it's really nice to get that setting, and the family support, and they were all in, and the next couple meetings I tell them, enough of the family, we need to shut mom up a little bit. It's kind of guiding your, all your thoughts and stuff, and I want to hear from you. So it kind of, weighs on it. You got to feel it out. But, like I said, after those coffee shops, we meet libraries. We just brought some people to the zoo. We got a big group together to go to the zoo. We go to Twins games, and especially in like September. I don't know why we plan all our events in recovery month, which is September, but I mean, that's going to be nonstop. But we have a walk for recovery. That's 6,000 people. We have a Minnesota Twins baseball game. That's called the Rally Caps for Recovery. That's about 3,500 people. We just did a soccer one for the second year in a row. It's a lot smaller, but for professional soccer in Minnesota, hasn't been heard of in about 20 years. So, yeah, we do like a spirituality breakfast. We just do a lot of events, but the main part is when they get out of the emergency room. We're talking about the coffee shop. Well, the thing is, we got them that assessment, and all of a sudden the treatment center says, well, there's a week, you got to wait a week to get in. Well, that window is going to close within that week. I guarantee it. So that's when it comes in, we got to hold your hand for that week and go show you. Let's get into a routine, and we'll sit down and we got sheets that, are labeled 1 through 10. How is your mindfulness, 1 through 10, and instead of having a yes or no answers, we leave everything open-ended so that, you know, if they say, you know, do you believe in God? You know, they never ask the question, but do you believe in God? You know, or we'll feel that out. Instead of saying yes or no, you know,
Right.
all of a sudden I got a person that says, well, two. And I go, oh, so there's a little opening, you know, there. All of a sudden, you know, maybe there is a God, you know. What does that God look like? You know, so then from two, you can use like motivational interviewing and say, hey, you know, how come you didn't say a one? Well, then they're going to defend themselves. And all of a sudden now they're, you know, defending their God that's inside them and their spirit. And so then you just find out how to get up, you know, work your way up. What's it going to take to get to a 5 or 6, you know? And usually it's going to take a daily routine, eating right, you know. It's all that stuff everybody told you growing up that you said, not me. I don't have to do none of that, you know. All those old people are right. But so, yeah, I like to get them on a daily routine, like just brushing their teeth. That's recovery, getting up, taking your kid to school, going to work on time, being accountable.
Making your bed, right? I remember that one. Gosh, I still struggle with that.
I got a 4-year-old and 2-year-old in my bed, so I still got an excuse not to. Sooner or later, I'm going to have to make that dang thing.
And how do you bring this, if the family wants to participate, you participate with the family? Do you meet with the family separately if the person in recovery is okay with that and says, hey, I need you to talk to them and share what I'm doing?
Yep. I mean, they'll have to sign a release of information, of course, and then we're free to talk to them. You know, I still, you know, anonymity is, you know, a big key of recovery, and I abide by anonymity. And I broke the anonymous part, you know, because I'm a big advocate, and I don't like everybody confuses the two, you know, anonymous and anonymity. But yeah, I mean, I'll talk to the families just alone and get the feel of it and, you know, their perspective. It's a family disease, you know, and if we don't treat that family, I always say, you take this tree and it's dying in your front yard. Well, you take it and you go put it over here in some nice, good treatment soil. Guess what? That tree's gonna come back to life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you graduate, you get that certificate and you get a chip and you say, okay, there you go, get out of here. And you put the tree back in the same hole. What's going to happen?
You touched on something as far as anonymity, which really kind of challenged me because, you know, I was in my meetings, in my home group, we would have people come in who would say their first and last name. Yeah. And they would say, look, you know, this isn't about, anonymity was never meant to be in a group. And, you know, and back when this is them speaking, back when I started in recovery, you know, if you needed to call somebody and ask for help, if you were struggling, you know, you had to go into the phone book and you couldn't find John in the phone book. You know what I mean? You had to find John Smith. Mm-hmm. So that's why I started that. And he goes, and there were a couple, but one in particular said, you know, and if we look at the tradition of anonymity, it says at the level of press, radio, and films. Yeah. And the idea there was because if I made it public that I'm in a 12-step recovery group and I'm recovered, and then I go out, you know, after I've become public and at the level of press, radio, and films, mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden I've done a disservice to the group because you're going to have all these people say, oh, look, and then he was out here bragging about how AA works and now he's back out on, you know, partying. So clearly it doesn't work. So that was my understanding of the tradition of anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. But we kind of are at the level of press, radio, and films in the 21st century, aren't we? Mm-hmm. So I wonder, you know, did we say our last name? Maybe we shouldn't say our last name.
Our last name is all over the place, honey bunny.
Yeah, well, I better not go out then, right? Yeah.
Neither one of us.
Chris, now the pressure's on, man.
That's why I use Christopher Lee Faulk when I'm doing my recovery stuff, because I want you to know who I am. I want that name. I want to recognize. I want you to know, because this is what recovery looks like. Everybody's got this big negative stigma that, oh, this is some guy in a park bench with a needle in his arm and a brown paper sack in his hand and just some bum. And it's like, no, this is what recovery looks like. It's your 13-year-old kid. It's your 19-year-old kid. It's your mom, your dad. It's everybody. It doesn't shame anybody, or it shames everybody. I mean, nobody is.
Right. Well, it shames us as a nation in the sense that we have said, we're not going to deal with this. And that's like you were talking about with the language change from addiction to substance use disorder to something that the mental health community can get a hold of and work with, rather than to say, oh, that's just a moral failing and push you off to the side. And your whole mobile unit just really changes the whole idea of, we don't have to wait for you to show up at our door. We're going to show up where you are in crisis, which is what we do. Jerry had an unfortunate accident while out hunting, and they didn't wait for him to drag himself one-legged back into camp and get help. They sent out an emergency team, including horses and backboard and all of that stuff.
11 guys and a horse.
Yep. To get him down the mountain. So that's kind of what you're doing with the SUDS unit, is you're going out and saying, hey, you're in crisis. We're here.
Yeah.
We're going to step in with you. Tell us, so you do something really magical, which I think is super neat. Tell us about the rings and how the rings got started.
Want a ring. Because my chip just lives in my underwear drawer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where everything lives.
Right. And that was the whole idea, is, everybody's got them in the bottoms of their purse or in their junk drawer. And mine was, I was walking up to this old folks home I was working on, and there was a gentleman up in a wheelchair, and he had a silver Morgan dollar, and he had a ring mandrel with a leather hammer, and he kept beating it, and then he'd heat it up and cool it off to soften the metal, and he'd beat it again. And I kind of just kept my eye on him all day, and I was nice and trying to say hi to him, but he didn't do a lot of talking. So at the end of the day, I walked up and I go, can I buy that from you? I want to buy it. That thing looks really nice. And I went to go take my money out of my pocket, and my keys hooked. My NA medallion went that way, my AA medallion went that way, and I'm just like, it was the white light moment. I was like, hey, teach me how to do this. And so I kind of watched him for the couple months I was there, and got the idea, and I started just banging it like him. And then from there, I seen somebody's doing it with spoons on YouTube, and all of a sudden, then I found this community of 10 people that do like silver Morgan dollars and currency. I have no reason to do any currency, so I stuck to the sobriety medallions. And then that way the idea is, instead of, if you go to the bar, it's on your hand, boom, you got a reminder, or you don't lose it, or don't leave it in your junk drawer. So,
or if somebody comments on the ring too, it gives you an opportunity to share your story.
That's the whole. That was, that's it. You got, as long as you're talking about recovery, I'm happy. I mean, I could talk about recovery all day long, because you give me God bumps when you said it. It was just like, that's what it's all about. We need that conversation, so that it reduces that stigma. Because if nobody's talking about it, nobody knows about it. They'll just make up their own mind what their moms and dads taught them, the old school way.
And back to that anonymity point too. I mean, that the whole anonymity thing was never meant to be about me and my recovery. It was about you, and I'm not going to talk about you and your recovery. I'll talk about me and my recovery all day. And again, and still kind of struggle with this one, except at the level of press, radio, and film.
Well, we're already there. So what type of recovery medallion does it need to be for you to press it into a ring?
I have thousands and thousands of medallions. I find them on eBay. It all depends on where the letters are on there. A lot of them were meant to be rings. I just know they were meant to. Some of them even come with a hole in the middle already, because I got to punch the hole out in order to get it started. But I don't know if you looked at the website. I only got maybe 20 listed on there, but there's a lot more that I just don't think would sell online. So
right.
But yeah, any one of them. Typically 99% of sobriety medallions are bronze.
Okay.
So right away I ran into the problem, everybody's fingers turning green, so then I started gold plating them and silver plating them, and so that reduced the green and turned it a little bit of shade of black every now and then. So everybody kept pushing me. So then I started powder coating them, and I was like, that's great. All of a sudden then you find that silver one, but that silver medallion is 0.999 fine silver. It's a half ounce. It turns into a better ring that you can go buy at any professional jeweler. Mm-hmm. It's more silver, and for a tenth of the price, really. And
right now, with the price of silver like below $16 an ounce, now's the time to get your silver rings made, man.
Yeah, I know.
Not you. I mean, I'm talking everybody else out there is thinking, I might want to get one of those. Now's the time. I mean, silver's cheap.
Yeah. Can we send you our personal medallions? Will you work on those?
Well, I mean, I have them on stock, and I'm more than happy to make a ring for anybody. If you want to mail me your medallion and have it, that's more meaningful, I'm all for it. Yes. Even better yet, I bring people right into my garage, in my shop, and I'm going to show you how to do it.
Wow.
You're going to do it. You're going to make your own ring because it's even more meaningful. They take it out of their pocket, and I made it simple enough so that my 8-year-old can do it. And so now, then I started bringing people in, and if they want to come over, and if they can get here, if they're in Minnesota or visiting in town, but they come right to my door, and we have a meeting.
That's really
road
cool.
trip. We need to road trip to
cool.
Minnesota. When are you going back through? Jerry's a trucker. When are you going back through Minnesota?
Probably.
You need to meet Chris and have him, instead of me sending your coin in, you need to meet him and have him.
So if I was to send you my coin, or if I was to bring my coin,
yep,
and I hammered it into a ring, what would it be able to be plated or coated at that point, or is that something?
Yep, I can. Like if you were here, I could plate it and coat it. It would take probably an hour then, because when you heat it up and cool it off, it turns black, and so then you have to put it in this. It's kind of like a rock tumbler, but it's stainless steel media with some little bit of acid in there, and it shines it up like brand new again. But that takes about an hour at least, minimum, and then you can plate it. And then I got powder coating paint too, which is even better. I mean, because it coats the shine over the top, so you never even have to shine it or keep it clean.
And this is, how long were you in recovery when you saw this ring making and decided to do this for yourself?
Just before I got 1 year is when I seen him doing it. So I started messing around right about 1 year. And I started an Etsy site, selling them, and I don't know. So it's been 5 years.
Wow. What? It's just there. And you need to go to his website. It's allringsrecovery.com.
Allrecoveryrings.com. Yeah.
Allrecoveryrings.com. And your photography is beautiful. It really captures what the rings look like. They can be made in any size. Like I'm a 7 and he's a 10.5. They can be made in any size, any way you want them. And they're just beautiful. I'm surprised people aren't calling you for wedding bands, because I think
I've done 11 weddings, but I've done 28 funerals.
That's not funny, but
so I need to do some catching up. Yeah, every time a friend or a close one or a recovery that ends up passing, I always put one in the casket when it goes down. And
that's a good segue into I attribute my recovery more than the people who helped me in the rooms were the friends that I had who died. That really helped enforce my recovery. And I heard an old timer say once in recovery that, we all of us have a purpose, and the ones who die in their addiction may do a better job of helping people to recover than the ones who have made it, and the miracles who are out there. And when I heard that, I was like, that's exactly my story. I had many friends who died, people who lost limbs. And as I look back on it, it was their sacrifice that really helped enforce me and help me solidify my perspective that I don't want to be that. So to look at them like that was the loss, I think is a little bit narrow, at least in my experience. It's narrow for me to look at that like that was a loss. Yeah. It was, and it was to their family, and it was if they had children, and it was to them. But I'm thankful for the sacrifice that they made, because they really, really spoke to me, as much as anybody in recovery. And I like to, kind of share that when I get the opportunity.
So with the rings that you do for funerals, are they the person that has passed that takes the ring, or is it a memory for the persons that are still living, or how do you do those for funerals?
I'll make one for them, because they don't have one yet, but obviously, or they wouldn't have passed away from using usually. I just make them a ring and make sure that I get it at least in the casket. That's just my way of saying goodbye, kind of thing. Something I started with a really close friend, and I just continue to do it. over the years. It's been they're dropping like flies around here. I just tell you, a lot of my recoveries, or just people close to the drug court system. I did drug court system for 3 years, and just a lot of them. They weren't my recoveries, but I was still part of their recovery. I got to see them once a week, and but so yeah, it's just something I just started doing, and it just makes me feel good.
Right. Yeah. So it's a piece of closure. So we, in our story, we got remarried again, and we have new rings, and I wish I had known about you.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I have your ring. I just won't give it to you because you lose it. I wish I'd known about you, because what a great way to commemorate. So we did the full thing. We got in front of the preacher again. We said our vows again. We did all those things. It would have been awesome to exchange recovery rings at that point. Maybe you'll still get one. This will be your 4th or 5th ring.
I don't know.
I keep buying him wedding rings because he keeps losing them.
A rubber one or something. Yeah.
There you go.
So tell us, Chris, where can we find more about you, the work that you're doing? You are ubiquitous all over Facebook. So give us the sites and the .coms and all those things.
Well, the ring website is www.allrecoveryrings.com. I kept it pretty simple. And then I do coaching is All Recovery Coaching. And then I do meetings, which is All Recovery Meetings, and they're all .com.
Awesome. And then you don't have to be in Minnesota. You can send rings in. I'm assuming you can do your coaching virtually.
Yep. Well, yeah.
Or you can just order rings off the site. He said he had.
So you have stock for that kind of thing too.
Yep. I just got one from New Zealand, a size Z28, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I gotta go look it up.
That's
I know
awesome.
It's big. I know it's a big one.
That's awesome. And then if they want to reach you directly, do you want them the Facebook message? Do you have email? How do you want to do that?
My cell phone number is out there publicly. I'll accept calls. Normally I wear the earbuds that I'm always ready. I'm always ready to just listen, or depending on the rings or the coaches, coaching wise, or just, like somebody wants to listen, just call me. I mean, I post my number everywhere. I got time. I'll find time.
In our busy lives. Well, Chris, we really appreciate it. We really appreciate all the work you're doing. And to all of our Sober on Purpose listeners, this would make great wedding rings, birthday gifts, Christmas gifts, just I love you gifts, or year sobriety gifts, whatever you want to do, because those coins come in and we just stuff them in the sock drawer somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I have coins too.
Are they in your sock drawer?
No, I don't even know where mine are. So it's a good thing to contact Chris at allrecoveryrings.com, and on his Facebook page is his cell phone number right there, and he would love to talk to you. So thanks, Chris. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, thank you.
You, beloved listener, are creative, resourceful, and whole. Do you want to add more purpose to your sober journey? Do you want to make room for the new and make your dreams a reality? Apply today for a dream session. Go to TanyaGioia.com. That's TanyaGioia.com and apply today. Let's get you dreaming about your new purpose.